It is Football Friday, brought to you by Salino Law Car Crash. Call Salino, call the 8s, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs, Crosby's hometown fuel, game day ready since 1922. Joining us for our Friday visit and weekend preview is Mr. Sal Capaccio. Fresh off, did you go online and get yourself a Schlittler jersey there, Sal?
No, I didn't do that, but I was incredibly impressed, obviously, with his performance last night, as I'm sure everybody was, right?
All-time performance. Like what an all-time, like so young in that spot, like an all-time performance.
You know, I tweeted after the game, it'll forever be called the Cam Schlittler game, right? I mean, like, we have these names for games, Bucky Dent and what happened in 78, the Kurt Schilling game and the Bloody Sock. Like, you get these monikers, these names, and I think it's the Kurt Schlittler game. I mean, historic game, you're right. Over the first pitcher ever in Major League history, not just Yankees history, to go over 8 innings in a postseason game, over 8 innings, have 12 strikeouts or more, and no walks. That's pretty incredible. And then on top of that, the other kid for the Red Sox, he pitched great too until the Yankees got to him in the 4th inning a little bit. I mean, who would have thought, these two, young kids coming out there in that situation. And then, the Yanks in the process, and I know it's only been, 3 years since they started the format, but in the process, they became the first team since this format started to lose the first game and win the next 2. Nobody's ever done that before, actually, until last night.
Yeah. So I'm instantly thinking, what's the best Bills example of Cam Schlittler, the Cam Schlittler game? And my first thought was Gabe Davis. I mean, I know he's more of a regular, but an all-time performance on a huge stage in a moment that's referred to as like his game is the Gabe Davis game in the 13 seconds game also. But whatever. Like those, I don't know if you have anybody else that jumps out, Bills or Sabres player, where they're forever known for one game. Then again, he's got a lot of career to go.
1995 Buffalo Bills playoffs against Miami. Tim Tyndale, the Tim Tyndale game.
There you go. Yeah. All right, Sal. Injury report. Let's do the injury report here as we get set for a Football Friday. An injury report. The Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. Dorian Strong jumps on the injury report. And what else do we have?
Yeah, and it's something to monitor, obviously, because it's a neck injury, and he wasn't on the injury list on Wednesday. So anytime you see a guy practicing Wednesday, not practicing at all on Thursday, that's number one that makes your, gets your alarm bells going. And then when it's a neck injury, that's even more so, because that can always obviously be really tricky and scary. So we'll find out more when Sean McDermott joins the Extra Point Show today. That should be a little after 11 a.m. today for everybody listening. I mean, moving target always, you never know if he's going to come on earlier, but that's what the plan is as of right now. In the meantime, Dorian Williams did not practice for a second straight day. He's dealing with a knee, so probably trending as though he's not going to be playing. But those are the only 2 guys who did not practice yesterday. TJ Sanders also added to the injury report, though. He practiced on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. So we'll see. Did something happen in practice or just something they were monitoring and laid off him a little bit? It could always be any of those kinds of things. And then really good news for Spencer Brown, Jackson Hawes, Matt Milano, and Oliver, as all were limited for a second straight day. All were practicing. Felt like, to me, they were all doing, especially Brown and Hawes, where I just think that, they got a little banged up, but they're trending in the right direction and they should be okay. I think Matt Milano and Ed Oliver, because of the time they missed, Milano's been tackling the bags, doing everything it seems like, that you'd want to make sure he can do with a pectoral injury. And actually, Ed Oliver's doing everything as well. And I know people look at the video and say, oh, he looks like he might be favoring this or doing that. I'm not, I don't know. I don't know how he feels. That's up to him. It's possible that either one of them could still be out on Sunday. We'll find out. But they are doing the things that when you go out to practice and see them doing that you are encouraged.
So the Jackson Hawes injury, he's limited, so maybe he'll be fine for Sunday. If he were to ever miss time, are they just back to, you think, Alec Anderson packages again, or do you think they would continue with 3 tight end sets? It would just be the practice squad tight end.
I think Alec Anderson would become a much more prominent role. I think the Bills wanted to, game 1 maybe against the Ravens, I think they even said they wanted to play a little bit more of the 6th offensive lineman, but they didn't get to it, and they were doing well in 13 personnel, so they kept it out there. And I think that's the overall plan anyway, do a lot of that. But I think, Joe, that they would probably prefer not to. And honestly, like, the guy on the practice squad is Kaliki Latu. Like,
Right.
he's not a blocking tight end like Jackson Hawes, right? I mean, you could elevate him just so you have a third tight end on the roster in case something were to happen during the game to Knox or Kincaid. But I don't see any way that they wouldn't. Like, if they want to go heavy, that would almost certainly be Alec Anderson and Reggie Gilliam, who they can use in a role like that, more of a fullback, though.
So the Patriots side of things, the Milton Williams injury could be something. To go from limited to not practicing, usually that's not a great sign. I don't know if there's anything else you saw in the report that's interesting, but he could be a big loss for them.
Yeah, Milton Williams is a really good player in the interior, and they're a very, very good run defense. It's a game where you got the Bills, who are the top run defense in the top rush offense in the NFL, and they're over 163 yards a game, one of the top per play. And then the defense for the Patriots is one of the top defenses in the NFL against the run. They're only allowing 77 yards a game. So a big piece of that is Milton Williams. If he can't go, that's a huge part of their defensive front. But they're a good front anyway. And yeah, I think that's something really to monitor with them here. And then you do have a backup linebacker also with a neck injury, Marte Mapu, who was a full participant Wednesday, went to a limited participant on Thursday. So you wonder if something happened to him also in practice because he went from full to limited with a neck injury. So a couple guys to monitor on the Patriots side, but number one, first and foremost, would be Milton Williams with the ankle injury.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline as we gear up for Bills and Patriots Sunday night football. Bills, of course, asking their fans to wear white for a whiteout kind of atmosphere. Sal, we also, of course, have the storyline part of this where it's Stefon Diggs and Mac Hollins making their return, former teammates and now foes. Dean Dawkins talked about it for a long time yesterday. You get the sense that this is, I don't know, a big deal or not much of one. I thought Dawkins kind of laid it out like year 2 without Diggs. This is kind of old news now. They kind of keep in touch, and yes, it's his return here, but I don't know. I feel like I kind of believe it when the vibe out there is that it's just kind of a game this time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and you already have a game, that he played against the Bills, right? This isn't the first time he's played. It is the return, though. You're right about that. And I asked Tre'Davious White when we were talking with him on the other day, like, hey, I'm not going to ask you to speak for Stefon, but what's it like? He said, it can be tough. You develop relationships and you come back and you're playing against your friends and your old teammates and the fans that loved you and adored you and you love them back, and now you're the enemy. So, but once you get the uniform on, once you start playing, all that goes away. You're playing a football game. It doesn't matter. You're blocking that out. That's what your job is, and you're going out and you're trying to perform the best you can for your team. Last year the story, I think a lot of it wasn't just the Bills playing Stefon Diggs. It was Alan Diggs, right? It was that relationship and where that would go and handshake and all that kind of stuff after the game. I don't get any of that now. I don't read any of that. Now it's more about the Diggs relationship with the fans and the reception he's going to get in Buffalo. My guess is he's going to be booed a lot.
Yeah.
And, and some fans will cheer him. That's fine. And what he did. But he'll get booed. He's the enemy. And, people don't like the way things went down when he was here, maybe at the end, for whatever reason. And you could feel differently. I just say that's the majority of people, how they feel from what I've heard. But either way, I guarantee you, that will fuel Stefon Diggs as well because he's a competitor. And that's what he's going to be thriving off of and at least trying to make an impact for his team as he has. He's had a nice year. And, credit to him to recover from the ACL injury the way he has. He's having a nice year and a bounce back. The guy tore his ACL last October. It's been less than a year since he did that, I believe. And for him to be out there and having the stats he has, they're going to rely on him. And, guys, he's their number one receiver. After him, they throw the tight ends. They're a tight end heavy team.
12 personnel.
Right? It is Stefon Diggs and tight ends and running backs. That's really what it is. They'll sprinkle in a Keyshawn
Butte, yep.
Butte, sorry. Look, a Keyshawn Butte pass here and there, a Mac Hollins pass every once in a while, but it's Stefon Diggs and then to the tight ends basically. He is a big part of what they do.
Yeah, Hunter Henry's been a big part this year, obviously in the pass game, and I was surprised to see they're not using him in the slot as much as Houston did. Like it still is near 50-50, but I think it's a little more advantage to the side where he's playing on the outside. But that also could be what you're talking about, right, Sal? Like if they're going 12 personnel and he's one of the two receivers out there, he's probably split out wide. And he made one big play last week out wide, but I don't know how much you've seen of him. It does feel like he's still a good receiver, but nobody should be expecting him to be this all-world, all-pro. He's going to light up whoever he's across from on Sunday. Like, if it's Christian Benford against Stefon Diggs on the outside on Sunday, like, Diggs will get some, but it's not like he's, what he was with the Bills 5 years ago.
You're right. He's still a really good player. And this is baked into the stats of, what's going on with Drake May throwing the ball. I think he's number 1 in the league in completion percentage for a guy with a minimum amount of throws. He's great on third down, but they're not pushing the ball down the field.
Right, it's short.
Like his average depth of target is I think like 28th or 29th in the league.
Right.
Because they like to just kind of be a little more methodical, and they don't have, we talk about the Bills with this. They're the same way. When you have Stefon Diggs and a bunch of tight ends you throw to, that doesn't scream throwing the ball over the top of the defense, right?
Right.
Stefon Diggs isn't the same player he once was, and he was never this super deep threat. He was a guy who could get deep, and he had more speed than people might realize, but it wasn't his game. His game was just running routes, getting open, finding his way open, and then he could pop one downfield once in a while. So you're right about that, Joe. Like, I think the Bills here, they have to be very aware that the Patriots, that's not going to be how what their game plan is going to be, because that's not what they do. And to your question about how the Bills cover him, I don't think you have to have a guy just follow Stefon Diggs around. Maybe they choose to do that because he is the one receiver, and maybe they say just go do that for Christian Benford. But I think that they believe in what they do and how to go about defending a team like this, and they might not have to do that.
Sal Capaccio. Sal, this early in the season, you have one team is good at this, another team is good at that, and you can kind of explain it away based on who you've played. You need more time to figure it out. Small sample sizes exist. However, do you feel like it's a good test here for the Bills' rushing attack? Because New England has been good against the run this year. I think they're 7th in EPA per play against rushing the football, and they stuff runs at the highest rate in football. So for this Bills offense, which has been very, very good handing the ball to James Cook, it is maybe their best test in that department.
I agree, and we'll see where the Bills go with this, because they're going to want to run the ball, and they believe they can run the ball, and for good reason, and they've done that. This is going to be a great test, and they'll have a plan coming into the game. We'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see how it kind of starts, and that'll give you a real good clue. Are they going to go right at the Patriots and start running the ball and say, "Here, we're here. You stop us. You have this really good front. We know that, but guess what? We believe we're the best rush offense in the league, and our stats show it, and we're going to do it." The other thing is, though, guys, the Patriots' pass defense numbers are not that great. They've given up numbers. They're near the bottom of the league in yards per game and yards per play given up. So maybe the Bills feel they can throw on them and loosen them up a little bit. And if they start throwing on them, it's a nice night out. If Josh Allen can, drop back and they can find some spots down the field, maybe that will open things up for the running game a little bit. So I am fascinated about that.
Will Cook get 17, 18, 23? Are we going to keep riding this until somebody breaks through? The thing about riding the hot hand, which McDermott said, right? Something like that, like that they're leaning on Cook because he's riding the hot hand. And this is the last thing we'll have for you, Sal, before we take off. Ray Davis needs to get an opportunity to get the hot hand if, in fact, you are going to ride the hot hand, right? You can say you're playing the hot goalie, but if the other goalie never plays, he can't ever get hot. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to play out and how much they lean on Cook.
Yeah, for sure. They have 2 games here until they have a bye, and they have an extra day before their next game next week. So you play Sunday, you play Monday, you have a bye. There's a big picture here, and I think, if you can get through the next 2 games and keep guys healthy, that's a great sign, obviously, but that might be something you look at and say they're going to have a little more time here, so you can lean on him, and he has had this big workload. But at some point, and I think, I talked about this with Derek and Zach a lot yesterday, at some point, I think the Bills are going to have to rely on Ty Johnson or Ray Davis to do something a little more than what they're doing. And what I mean by that is get on the field more, because they're relying so much on James Cook because he's doing so well. But there's going to be a game where you say, you know what, Ty Johnson's going to be a big part of what we do here to throw the ball here. Ray Davis is going to have to come in and spell James Cook. We can't put everything on him, So I don't know if that's this week or not, but at some point that's got to happen.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Thank you, Sal.
You got it.
Sean McDermott today. Sorry.
You got me, guys?
Yeah,
Sean McDermott today. A little after. The plan is a little after 11. So
Okay.
we'll have Patrick Hammer on at 10:30 for a weather check. It'll be great this weekend, but he'll tell us about that. And then McDermott around 11:15 or so. That's the plan right now. It can always change.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Sal.
You got it.
That's the plan for the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show, which comes up at 10 o'clock. Sean McDermott joins Sal each and every football Friday.